Why'd you tell me to turn it here, Todd, to 709? Why?
Yes, to Channel 9 because...
oh, look at that!
Yeah, how about this? Michael and Kelly just welcomed to their program Mad Men actor Jon Hamm.
That is interesting. At almost the exact same time we bring on the real Jon Hamm on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready hotline on 107.7 The Franchise. Do you ever get tired of that?
No. I mean,
Liar!
That is so meta for Jon Hamm to be introduced at the same time.
It kind of is, actually.
Yeah, it's not like your name's Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, it could Jon Hamm is not a bad name to have.
Right, like Office Space, like when
Michael
Bolton.
Yes, exactly.
That would be a terrible one. But Jon Hamm, you can do worse.
Samir, not going to work here anymore.
Right. Yeah, I love how we're referencing a 20-year-old movie. Like everyone's going to know it. Anyway, Jon Hamm with us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready hotline.
All right, 20 years younger than our bumper music, but
John, why do you think now? I had a theory in the last segment before we actually get into the nuts and bolts of some of the things that are going to be happening over the next 24 to 48 hours, and thank you again for coming on with us. What do you think are some of the things that are most at play as to why NBA free agency is so much more exciting now compared to, say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, people have always been fascinated by player movements. That's always been kind of this cottage industry within really all of professional sports.
Yeah, we love transactions, no doubt.
Oh, we do. And really, we love the idea of a transaction more than the real transaction. We just love to get on and talk about, I came up with this awesome trade, and it's these guys for that guy, and you go back and forth about it, and then a real trade happens, and it's like Caron Butler and Sean Williams for Ersan Ilyasova. I don't care about that. You get these real boring trades that actually happen. But, yeah, we love change. We love the idea of change. And, now you mentioned how things changed in the new collective bargaining agreement. There's shorter contracts. Guys are hitting the market sooner. There's a lot more potential for movement because teams can plan to have cap room to chase after these free agents. They don't have to bog themselves down unless you're really stupid like Brooklyn and decide to do so. So, and I kind of think fans they're starting to grasp not maybe the entire collective bargaining agreement, but fans are learning some concepts here and there. They're kind of grasping onto certain things as time evolves, and we move on. And I think that's made for a lot more interest as well, because now they can join in the conversation a little bit more.
Did this all happen because of the LeBron Heat? Are we here because of the LeBron Heat with this collective bargaining, this type of collective bargaining agreement, this type of moving and shaking? Are we this interested? In part, at least, if not mostly, because of the LeBron Heat and break it up. Just break it up.
Oh, I think so. I think that's a huge thing because, I remember that idea was tossed out about a year in advance. Like, these three guys can join up, and you had a lot of people saying, oh, it can't happen because for various reasons. They have to take less money, or Miami couldn't clear enough cap space. And then it happened, and then a lot of people were like, wait, you told me that couldn't happen. And so we kind of had to backtrack and say, okay, well, here's, these things that we didn't think would happen actually did happen. And, yeah, then I think it started to make people think, depending on your market, if you're in L.A., you're like, okay, well, how can that happen here? If you're in another market, like, how can I keep that from happening? And so, yeah, the 2011 agreement then came along, and I honestly feel like it had two targets. I feel like it had the big three in mind with a lot of the rules that put in place. And I think it had Oklahoma City in its crosshairs because of all the talent that it had developed that it was, looked like they were going to keep. And I think a lot of teams were like, yeah, we don't run our teams as well as they do. So we need some rules in place so we can get some of their guys. So you put all this in, you throw in the James Harden trade, which a lot of people still can't, completely wrap their brain around, or they just kind of grab the early, easy explanations for it. You throw all those in, and yeah, it's really piqued the interest, I think.
What's funny, what's interesting to me is, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Jon Hamm with us, is that if Durant's contract ended this offseason before the new money kicked in, then really all the purpose of the CBA trying to help out small market teams like Oklahoma City becomes kind of null, right? I mean, because the extra bird rights money and all that, or the extra money you can offer to stick with your same team really holds less weight now than more than ever, just because of the whole salary bump thing that or the cap bump that's going to be happening here in a year, right?
Yeah, no, that's true because and the fear is again, I mentioned the 2011 CBA took aim to preventing these big threes from happening again. Well, this sudden jump in the salary cap could lead to that happening again. It could lead to easily, 2 or 3 max players getting together because you're going to have players on max deals from a year ago.
Right.
And could you go out and fetch a guy like Kevin Durant to add to a couple of current all-stars, and boom, you've got your big three again, which they supposedly wanted to prevent. Yeah, this giant jump in the salary cap is problematic. It does benefit the players, which is why they voted down all ideas to kind of smooth this money in so there wouldn't be such a drastic jump. But yeah, it's a little concerning. It definitely is.
Jon Hamm with us. All right, let me do local, and then we'll branch out to national. The Enes Kanter signing. I was mulling this around with Todd off air. Would you just looking at the numbers, which that's what you are very, very good at, would you assume that Sam Presti has a number in mind that if another offer is made at that number for Enes Kanter, that Presti has to say no?
I honestly don't think so. I think they would prefer that he not go out and get a max contract offer from somebody, which would start out at probably like 15.4 and escalate from there over 4 years. I think they would like to get in ahead of that, negotiate that, maybe even try to lock him up for 5 years at a little bit lower number, but, bigger money long term. But he should go out and shop his services and see if there's someone else out there that's willing to give him that. And if they are, I don't think the Thunder would be scared off by a max offer. They would prefer not to, probably, but they're really high on Kanter. They're really high on him going forward. And if it's an expensive bullet to bite, I think they're going to bite it.
How do you answer the people that I'm sure have been asking you nonstop? Jon Hamm with us, by the way, our salary cap guru and co-host of the basketball show, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Saturdays on the franchise. How do you answer the people that say, what can the Thunder do if by chance they don't sign Kanter?
Yeah, so here's kind of just a real brief thing on how the salary cap works. And really what you've got to think about are what tools do you have to sign players. So if your team is under the salary cap, the tool that you have is that you can sign guys until you reach the salary cap. If you've got $10 million in cap room, you can sign a guy for $10 million. You can trade for a guy making $10 million and give up like a second-round pick. When you go over the salary cap, your tools are limited. And when you go over the luxury tax, specifically $4 million above the luxury tax, those tools become even slimmer. So if the Thunder decided, you know what, we're not going to re-sign Singler, we're not going to re-sign Kanter, they're not going to really gain anything. They're still going to have the same tool available, which is basically, $3.4 million roughly to sign an outside free agent. That's not going to change whether they sign Kanter or let him go. So there's no benefit to, not signing him. They can't take the money they were going to sign Kanter with and just divert that elsewhere. The rules are in place to allow them to exceed the salary cap, go into the luxury tax to re-sign Kanter, not go out and shop for someone else's free agent.
Got it. So that basically hamstrings completely any real free agency. Could you muster up a scenario in which there is some interesting free agent moves by the Thunder? Could you even muster one up?
Well, so I mean, just here's an example. So the one that people have come at me, wanting to know about Danny Green, for example, from San Antonio. So the salary cap looks like it's going to be about $67 million next season. Danny Green is probably going to earn at least $10 million in the first year of his deal. So let's say the Thunder need to be offered they need to offer $10 million. In order to do that, they need to get $10 million under the salary cap, which means jettisoning basically everyone except for Durant, Westbrook, Ibaka, probably Morrow, keeping Payne, maybe keep Steven Adams, and everyone else would have to be jettisoned, dumped onto other teams, along with assets to entice those teams to take them, to clear the salary cap room. Now, all of this vaunted depth that we've talked about is gone because you've had to, dump it all to go out and sign this one guy, and now you've got basically, a 7-man roster, all for the benefit of getting this one guy. So I won't say it's, impossible because I've seen crazy things happen in this league, but I think it's super unlikely that anything like that would happen.
Very good. So we can put to rest any real crazy, at least I think we can, put to rest any crazy ideas for the Thunder and free agency. Jon Hamm with us. All right. Now let's branch out. Let's do a couple of things with the rest of the NBA. And me and you talked a little bit about this before we came on today. LaMarcus Aldridge. I pulled up, after you got to talking about it, I completely forgot about it until you brought it up earlier off air, that Aldridge wanted to, or at least he said he was going to, retire a Blazer, and I am just waiting for financial reasons, but when my contract ends, I will be re-signing with the Portland Trail Blazers, and now it seems like he's going to be out the door. And you make of that what, as it pertains to Oklahoma City?
Pro athletes say the darndest things. They really do.
So we should probably back off when we hear, love about Oklahoma City from Thunder players.
Yeah, it's tough. Because obviously, even if some guy had it in his mind, I'm getting out of here at the first hit. And the first thing smoking, I'm getting out of town. If you come out and say that, well, obviously that's bad for publicity. And who knows, in the case of Aldridge, maybe the situation a year ago, he really felt like, man, I want to stay here. Maybe something changed within the organization that I'm not aware of. I don't know if there's some conflict between he and other players or he and the front office, or if he was just saying all the right things publicly a year ago. But, I'm telling you, it's like politicians. They'll come out and tell exactly what we want to hear, and if they decide to do something different, they can deal with the consequences. These athletes have enough capital that they can do such a thing and be just fine. So,
If you're Pat Riley and Dwayne Wade, who is apparently opting out of his contract, is asking for what he is asking for, which is a salary close to, if not the max currently, would you give it to Wade?
That's tough. That is really tough. So here's Miami's team building plan has been bring in the superstars. We're in Miami. We can lure you here. We're not going to waste time and money developing guys like other markets do. We're not going to focus a lot on draft picks. We're buying American. We're not going to go out and draft European guys. And the strategy has largely worked out for them. It's got big bang and, bust potential there. And right now it's a bit of a bust. The problem is, if you re-sign Dwayne Wade for what he wants, you've really handcuffed yourself in what you want to do next summer and the summer thereafter, and you don't have a lot of young talent on hand to fill out the rest of the roster. So it's a tough situation, and I really think, Dwayne really kind of got screwed by LeBron. I feel like he agreed to take a pay cut last season because that was the idea. He and LeBron and Bosh were going to rework their contracts and bring in more talent. Then LeBron leaves. Then Bosh gets enticed by Houston. Then Miami has to throw a max offer at Bosh to retain him.
Right.
And Wade's already agreed to take his pay cut. So, now he's like, look, man, let's make this right. Everything I've done for you over the years. So I don't know if I would do it, to be quite honest with you, given his age and where the franchise is at. But, yeah, very tough call.
Jon Hamm is
I think in the end they'll come to an agreement somewhere.
Jon Hamm is with us here on 107.7 The Franchise. John, tell us why LeBron James isn't selfish for becoming a free agent and declining his player option and not immediately re-signing with the Cavs, because I saw that you linked an article to this on Twitter. So explain to people what LeBron's doing here.
Yeah, there's a few pro athletes that have an enormous amount of leverage, and LeBron is one of those. Kobe Bryant, I think, is another one. And not only that they have the leverage, but they go ahead and exercise that leverage. You think of a guy like Tim Duncan in San Antonio. He's been very agreeable all along the way. You know, he could have come in and demanded more. Dirk Nowitzki in Dallas could have demanded that he was eligible to get, and he didn't. And that's fine. That's their style. But LeBron and Kobe are the kind of guys that are like, no, I want my cake and I want to eat it too, and you're going to do that for me because of the guy that I am, the kind of value that I bring to your franchise. And so, yeah, I mean, I really can't blame them. If you're in that position and you're willing to put yourself through that and go through some of the scrutiny to do that, more power to you.
We talked about this, John, before the draft, that we might see a lot of action around draft night, and maybe we didn't see quite as much as we thought. But looking in your crystal ball, next season, so the 2016 season, once the new salary cap is in place, how many more trades are we going to see because people are going to be willing to take on what used to be considered a big contract that now is not as big a hit against the cap?
Yeah, so like, for example, I just saw this earlier where, Philadelphia next season could have like Nerlens Noel, Joel Embiid, Okafor, a few other first-round picks, and about $60 million in cap space. Well, if they can't go out and throw that at the right free agents, maybe they're going to be out there saying, hey, if you need to clear cap space, we'll take it off your hands. Yeah, it could be dizzying next summer. Now, I know the draft night was a bust. We were led to believe there'd be a lot of movement, and when the draft night came, a lot of teams just kind of sat on their hands. But, yeah, I believe between now and the trade deadline and draft night next season, you're going to have a lot of teams. They're going to start, positioning themselves, and then once the cap goes up and the teams have got to spend that money, you could see it could get really crazy. I really think it could.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun, Ham. This is going to be fun. Good talking to you, buddy.
This is what we live for, man.
That's right.
This is excellent stuff.
This is going to be fun. Always a pleasure, bud. Thanks for doing it.
All right. Thanks as always, guys.